Tails woke up as hard as a rock this morning. He dreamt that him and Sonic were flying around the tornado. They were doing all sorts of crazy tricks like the double barrel roll in Cleveland Steamer. Towards the end of the dream, the plane began to lose altitude, and Tails found himself losing control of his gay little plane. Just as they were about to crash into a trade center, Tails woke up, sweating. His cock was hard and veiny like the hands of a blue-collar worker. He decided to go into the shower and rub his dick until sperm came out. Sperm is used mostly to make women pregnant. Once Tails was finished relieving himself and cleaning his little furry buttocks, he made his way into the kitchen where Amy was making eggs for him. "Those eggs better be sunny side up, bitch," Tails said in a masculine voice, a tone of voice that he didn't use often unless he was with Amy. A tone of voice that really suited the little furry guy. "There you are," Amy said as she put the plate on the table. "Sunny side up, just the way you like it." "Yeah, I like it when I can come without shame again," Tails said, sounding a little bit more defeated, but still as masculine as before to Amy's ears. Tails finished his eggs and made his way into his work area. He sat behind his typewriter and continued his work on his screenplay. Tails had dreams of being a big-time Hollywood screenwriter ever since he saw Gone with the Wind. He wrote for a few minutes until there was a knock on his door. It was Amy. She peeked in. "Tails, is it okay if I go to the store and buy some groceries?" "Only if you remember to pick up lube this time. I hate going into your ass dry. Makes my dick chafe." Amy nodded her head and left. Going out to get groceries was the happiest time for Amy since she could almost force herself to forget about the terrible situation she was in. Tails continued to write. He was growing excited. In his screenplay there's a character named Edna, a lonely housewife with an itch in her vagina that only can be reached by a huge black wiener. Thankfully the mailman has a huge black wiener and is more than welcome to scratch that itch for Edna. Tails was growing increasingly aroused by this, so he went into the bathroom to jack off. He sat there on his toilet, erected shaft in hand, as he thought about Edna and how her vagina was being pulverized by a man she only knew as an acquaintance. Just as Tails was about to finish up, he noticed in the corner of his eye that someone was watching him through the window. The figure disappeared when he noticed that Tails caught him. Tails knew who it was. He couldn't forget the face. It was Eggman. Thankfully, Tails is much faster than the fat old Eggman, so he managed to catch up with him. He stopped Eggman in his tracks. What do you think you're doing?" Tails said.
I was just, coming to see if you were home,"
Eggman said, sounding pathetic. "Why don't you go get laid, huh? Do you really have to watch a guy like me sexually jack off to get excited?" Eggman didn't know what to say. He simply put his head down in shame, knowing that he had disgraced his family. "Go on, get out of here," Tails said, with a bit of sympathy in his voice. Eggman turned around and began walking. Tails shook his head and turned around to go back to his house. Just then, Eggman pounced on Tails and undid his pants in less than a nanosecond. He was already hard, so he managed to put his dick and one ball inside Tails' ass swiftly. Tails screamed as loud as he possibly could, hoping that someone would hear or scream. But no one was near. No one could hear him. Tails and his asshole were doomed. Eggman was a fierce man to be fucked by. Without pause, he continued. In, out, etc. He did this for almost 2 hours until he finally finished inside of the furry little guy. Eggman stood up, lighting a cigarette.
"You better watch your back next time, you little faggot. Otherwise, I might get you again."
Tails couldn't say anything. He just laid there on the asphalt, anuses red and prolapsed as a Mars crater. Eggman walked down the street, passing an alleyway. From the alley, a voice was heard. "Psst, in here." Eggman turned around and walked into the alleyway and found Amy. "Well, did you finish the job?"
"Oh, I finished the job. I also came," Eggman said proudly.
"Well, good. Here's the $10,000 I promised." Eggman took the money, which came in a suitcase.
"If you ever need me again, you have my number. Call anytime. I love to come."
Amy nodded. Eggman flicked a piece of cheesecake that was left in his mustache from earlier. Amy put her hand on Eggman's shoulder. Eggman took Amy's hand and put it on his cock, repeating himself from before.
"I love to come."
Amy blushed, knowing that Eggman wasn't lying to her. Amy could always appreciate an honest man. Honesty was a trait that she found very attractive. Eggman scratched his nutsack using Amy's hand. Eggman always had an itchy sack due to the crabs he contracted while out on vacation 3 years ago. Most people would take medicine to get rid of the crabs, but Eggman believed in natural medicines. Amy and Eggman stared into each other's eyes until their eyeballs began to hurt from not blinking. Eggman blinked first. Amy laughed. "Ha ha! I won! You blinked first!" Eggman smiled.
Yes, I did blink first, but I never come first. I love to come.
Amy felt warm. It was winter, but she felt very warm being in Eggman's presence. She reached into her purse and pulled out an Apple Watch, which you can use to check the weather, see and respond to messages, and even browse the web. Head to your local Apple store and pick up an Apple Watch for only $3.99.